You know, I hear the JCPOA, the Obama nuclear catastrophe, which was so bad. When Obama left, he didn't hit their military. He didn't damage their Navy or destroy their Air Force. I destroy the Air Force. They couldn't do a damn thing. He didn't do any of that stuff. He didn't kill their leadership. I did twice, 2.5 times to be exact. He didn't do anything to Soleimani. I killed Soleimani.
President Trump is defending his Iran strategy while ripping Barack Obama's weak nuclear deal. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the final hour of the Big Weekend Show. President Trump is blaming Obama for not going far enough to dismantle Iran's nuclear program, which set the stage for this current conflict. But Obama, as you can imagine, is pushing back.
We've now fought a war, spent billions and billions of dollars, put an enormous strain on our military. A lot of people have died, and it feels like we're back where we were before we started the war, except maybe a little bit worse, awfully.
So what did former President Obama's Iran deal actually do? Well, Joey Jones is at the big board to break it all down.
Yeah, guys, hey, listen, we're at the big board. I've even got a bigger iPad this time, so we're going to try to get this done. So some of the things that kind of stand out and when compared to what's happening now about this is that every single limitation or every single restriction on Iran under the JCPOA timed out. Some of them as few as 5 to 7 years, some of them as long as 25 to 30 years, but every single stipulation timed out. I want to hit only the big points because you can't really juxtapose a finished negotiated deal that has fine details with a memorandum of understanding that doesn't. But I do want to give people an idea of how these are different and how they're similar. So it said, up to 300 kilograms of nuclear material, the level of enrichment was stipulated, and then how they were going to monitor it. It said the IAEA would watch over Iran's nuclear program, but even that was limited to, a certain amount of time. It was limited on years as far as who was allowed in and when. Iran had a lot of say over that. That was one of the biggest complaints was the way Iran was going to do it, you really wouldn't have a chance to overlook things. The deal itself expired in 10 to 15 years, so even if there were parts of it that lasted 25 years, after 10 to 15 years, would it matter? But some of the things, the enrichment limitations, only 10 to 15 years. They had, for 15 years, they could keep that stockpile of 3.67% enriched uranium, knowing that they had uranium enriched much more than that. And then also the sanctions, they ultimately were going to relieve the same sanctions that we're talking about doing now. The difference is they had it stipulated line by line, and J.D. Vance has said things like, if they perform well, because we don't have an ironed out deal yet. But they were relieving sanctions on oil and gas, relieving sanctions on banking, and other stuff to include certain individuals that had sanctions against them. Most of those people are dead now, so that part doesn't really apply to this one. So that's what you're looking at. And then they were blocking, supposedly, routes to get plutonium, which is the enriched uranium, plutonium-239. But basically, all of that is kind of taken care of in this deal, and we'll explain that too.
So, Joey, what was Iran's uranium and nuclear stockpile before the Obama deal compared to now?
Yeah, so here's something that Democrats might use as their own talking point, but I want to explain how it isn't. So what we knew of in February of 2014 was 161 kilograms of uranium. We call it yellow cake. So what this is, that's a pile of the yellow cake on like a mirror, so it's making a triangle, but it's really a little pyramid. And so that's what we knew about. And then you look, and from 2014 to 2026, 441 kilograms. So it pretty much tripled, almost quadrupled in that amount of time to a lot more. The reason why I'm pointing that out is they had no intention of stopping their enrichment program. And what's really important here is that if you'll remember, right before Epic Fury started, Jared Kushner, Steve Witkoff were over there, and the Iranians told us braggadociously, hey, we've got enough enriched uranium right now for 11 warheads. Back then it was 1 to 2. And the reason why I point that out is you don't do that in that amount of time because President Trump backed out of the JCPOA in 2020, or in, what was it, 2024, 23, I can't remember the year. We'll get that. I'll post it online. But you don't do that in basically 10 years and say that you were abiding by it to begin with. In other words, the amount of growth is evidence that they weren't abiding by the JCPOA, which is why President Trump felt like this is something that needed to be dealt with with Operation Midnight Hammer, and we can talk about that in a second.
Wow, those are some really alarming stats that you've got there, Joey, and I want to find out more from you about, what Iran's nuclear facilities, their ability to enrich that uranium looked like, before the Obama deal, during the Obama deal, compared to now.
Yeah, this is perhaps my favorite stat that we can do. 2014, the Fordow facility. We've heard, everybody's heard us talk about it. It was one of the facilities that was bombed in Operation Midnight Hammer. So in the JCPOA, the Fordow facility was going to be converted to a research facility for stable isotope production with Russian cooperation, because of course they're great, great allies. And it was going to be for 15 years, you would not have uranium there. Under Operation Midnight Hammer, the Fordow facility it's a desert. It doesn't exist. Whatever enriched uranium is there is buried so far, you can't get to it. Only we can. Even the Iranians have admitted to that. So the JCPOA allowed this facility to continue to operate, and honestly, there was no chance in the world that they wouldn't continue to enrich uranium there or somewhere else. This is the greatest visual example of the difference between a deal on paper that has no teeth and what teeth look like, which are giant bombs that only we can deliver on a 36-hour round-trip mission.
Joey, what issues does the signed MOU cover now? And what issues are still being negotiated?
Yeah, so this is something that I really wanted to do. So I took the 14-point plan and I lined them out, numbered them, and then you get down to point 13, and it literally says, these points are immediate, these points exclusively will be negotiated. So I wanted to show people why this MOU is a little bit easier to understand and better than a lot of even conservatives are analyzing it. Because if you go through the plan and pull out the things that are immediate, it's something like U.S. stops military operations, but it's actually U.S. and Iran stop military operations. It says, and in Lebanon. So right there off the top, Iran's already breaking the immediate, so are we bound to immediates? Then it says, we're going to end the blockade, but we're going to take 30 days to do it because you, Iran, have to help us demine, because you put them out there, you take the risk of pulling them out. You, Iran, will do safe passage of commercial vessels. Now, that's the one point in this MOU that I had trouble understanding why we allowed them to put there would be no tolls for the 60 days only. So it kind of opens the door, almost a promissory of could they do tolls again. But President Trump posted, hey, we might be the ones doing the tolls because we're the guardian angels here. It says the U.S. would issue waivers for Iran to export oil and then unfreeze assets. But the unfreeze assets in that MOU says how they do that will be ironed out in this negotiation. So it's not automatic like people are interpreting it. But then the things that have to be negotiated, this is the meat and potatoes. And what I'm learning here, and what most people should say, is this is a 60-day ceasefire with a little bit of goodwill on paper. We're finding out what the deal that would be compared to JCPOA is through this negotiation. It doesn't exist yet. So it's respect each other's sovereignty. I think that has to do with cyber attacks and maybe, trying to assassinate the president like Iran has done. Iran would have no nuclear weapons. Obviously, already Iran's saying that they're not exactly on board with that, so we'll figure that out. It extends, it maintains the status quo nuclear program. So basically it says for next 60 days, don't you try to go get your dust out of Fordow and these other facilities. Don't you go try to activate a centrifuge. The $300 billion for reconstruction, again, this is something that's still to be negotiated. And our government, the administration is saying, we're not putting that money in there. If we can get them to agree to all these other things, maybe some other countries want to invest in them and make some money off of a growing economy. The sanctions, seeking a United Nations Security Council resolution worth its weight in paper, probably, and then a mechanism to implement the final deal. The point here is simply there are two sides to this MOU. There's the little things we'll do now to keep from being in a hot war, and then there's all this other stuff that still has to be negotiated. Maybe we all jumped the shark a little bit in applauding this as peace, but it was a step towards peace that didn't include killing more people, and it leaves all the important things still to be negotiated. What the MOU did is it outlined more so what we would do because we're the legitimate country here, and now they're in there negotiating, trying to pin down what we're going to make Iran do or make them promise to do in order for any of this stuff to ever come to fruition. I have no idea if peace with Iran comes out of this, but I know that all these concessions Democrats are complaining about, they're not coming to fruition anytime soon until this deal is ironed out and we see what they're willing to do.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.